tell you a little story.
That's the voice of rock and roll singer and guitarist from Shillong, Lou Major, the voice of Shillong.
Was standing by the highway, a suitcase by my side. There's no place I wanna go, I just thought I'd catch a ride.
On a morning in May, we too have embarked on a journey to Shillong. We are looking for Labonyo in Shillong and Amit. We are looking for Tagore in Shillong. We are on a journey to find if the Shillong hills are still alive with the farewell song sung by the star-crossed lovers Labonyo and Amit, the romantic duo from Tagore's Shesheir Kobita, the last poem. So on Tagore's birthday this year, we set out to trace Tagore's trips to Shillong. This was a journey on a timeline stretching from 1919 to the present.
Attention please, this is the final call for...
Like the other tourists waiting at the departure lounge of the airport, we too bury ourselves into our phones, browsing the net for writings on Shesheir Kobita. And lo behold, we find a Facebook post on a friend's timeline, reminiscing his association with Shesheir Kobita.
Almost 26 years ago, when I and Onubha met in the corridors of All India Radio during the production of a radio documentary, she had gifted me a copy of Shesheir Kobita, one of the most romantic novels ever written by Tagore. It was set in Shillong, which only added to the romance of the tale. Over the years, the gifting of Shesheir Kobita came to be recognized as the very first overture of intimacy between the two of us. Both of us were taken up by the two lovers, Amit and Labonyo, and they left indelible impressions upon our impressionable minds and hearts. That was in 1989. This morning, 26 years later, Onubha took a flight to Shillong to do research for a radio documentary on Tagore in Shillong and visit the house where Shesheir Kobita was set. It took us 26 years to even set out in search of Amit and Labonyo. Today, and for the next 6 days, as Onubha walks along the misty and winding roads of Shillong, I wonder if she will ever find the Amit and Labonyo of our yesteryears. Will she be able to spot them lazily ambling through the meandering streets of Shillong, holding hands and walking into the sunset? Well, the truth is that Amit and Labonyo, the two star-crossed lovers, never managed to walk into the sunset. Fortunately for Onubha and me, our story was never written by Tagore.
Shukhi bhabona kahare bole, shukhi jatona kahare bole.
Tagore wrote Shesheir Kobita at the ripe old age of 67. Until date, it continues to haunt the popular imagination of its readers. He decided to make Brookside and Jeetbhumi the two houses that he had stayed in during his trips to Shillong in 1919 and 1923 as the setting for the novel. Amit of Shesheir Kobita is an Oxford-educated barrister, an aristocrat from a high-profile family in Kolkata, who goes for a holiday to Shillong. One day, his car collides with Labonyo's car on a blind curve in the winding roads of Shillong. Both of them escape unhurt. However, this accident leads to a spontaneous romance between the two. They discover their love for poetry and they communicate mostly through poems. At one level, Labonyo is Tagore's spokesperson who uses her eloquence to silence his critics. At another level, Labonyo is Tagore's empowered new woman who refuses to fight with another for Amit's love. She withdraws the moment she learns about his earlier engagement with a Western-educated, woman named Katie. Amit is despondent but fails to rise up to the occasion and meekly accepts Labonyo's decision. They decide to part without rancor. Sensing the popularity of the novel, almost 85 years after its publication, in 2013, Sumanto Mukhopadhyay made a Bengali film based on the novel. This film was shown in the Dubai and New York International Film Festivals and still awaits its release in India. We spoke to Rahul Bose, who has portrayed the character of Amit in the film.
Everybody uses the word iconic so loosely nowadays, but Amit Ray really is an iconic character in Bengali literature. Everybody has their own Amit Ray in their mind. So I decided to do it the way I thought best to realize the director's vision of Amit Ray. And his vision of Amit Ray was a very nuanced, complex, interesting vision, because Amit Ray, he is not as likable today as he might have been many, many years ago, because there are definitely problems in the current cultural context with how he viewed women.
The film is set in actual locales, and we ask Sylvanus Lamare, Principal St. Edmund's College and the State Representative of Sahitya Academy, to help us trace the steep and meandering roads of Shillong where Labonyo and Amit walked hand in hand.
The sad part of it is that when you try to relive those places, then you are not getting the same kind of feelings because of so much of destruction that has taken place. You admire Tagore more because of the strong imagination of how he portrayed those places, that by reading it, once you see it, when you visit only once, you can just place yourself, yes, this is the place, especially for those who are from Shillong. Okay.
Today we'll do that walk. Can you tell us which route we should take?
There's a road that goes around Pinewood Hotel. Then, of course, in front of the Shillong Club, that's another place that you can. Of course, the traffic will disturb your thinking and imagination, but nevertheless, give it a try.
In the midst of whispering pines, misty, flower-laden roads, and alongside the gurgling Shirpi spring, the Brookside Cottage, Yogmaya and Labonyo's house in the novel still nestles peacefully. The regional office of the Indian Council for Cultural Relations is housed in Brookside now. The house also has a Rabindra art gallery. A life-size statue of Rabindranath stands in front of the house. He is in his characteristic robe with his hands folded at the back. Every year, thousands of tourists flock to this place. They come looking for Labonyo. They come looking for Tagore. We speak to Munish Singh, Regional Director, Indian Council for Cultural Relations, who shares an interesting interaction with a tourist.
I was working, and in the back side from my window, a lady just opened up the curtain and just shouted, no? Ki Tagore kothai chilen, like that. So I was shocked for some time and look at her. Then I said, Madam, feel Tagore. Tagore is everywhere in this campus. Tourists come from all over India, all over world, and they are very curious once they are in Brookside Cottage. They would often ask where he used to sleep, where he used to stand. Sometimes I myself plays the role of the guide, and it's very interesting, in fact, to show them, to tell them that the Sirpi brook, a stream that flows around the house, and then the eucalyptus trees and the garden where Tagore used to roam around. And people try to connect with that novel and maybe Labonyo's house and the road that is zigzag and everything they try to discuss with me. And in fact, I get more to know about the Shesheir Kobita and the house from our tourists. And some of them, they would just come and they will suddenly start reciting Tagore's poem and with tears in their eyes.
As we move out from the Rabindra Art Gallery at Brookside Bungalow, Amit's farewell song for Labonyo, his last poem, plays out in our mind.
তব অন্তর্ধান পটে হেরি তব রূপ চিরন্তন অন্তরে অলক্ষ্য লোকে তোমার অন্তিম আগমন লোভিয়াছি চিরস্পর্শমণি তোমার শূন্যতা তুমি পূর্ণ করি গিয়েছ আপনি জীবন আধার হল সেই ক্ষণে পাইনু সন্ধান সন্ধ্যার দেউল দ্বীপ চিত্তের মন্দিরে তবদান Invisible, your image unchanging is in my eyes. In the unseen chamber of my heart, you abide forever. I found the stone that turns all into gold, the void in me, you. Dark was life when I discovered you in the heart's shrine, the lighted lamp you left as your parting gift. Separation, like sacred fire, revealed in the glow of sorrow, love's image divine.
Six months have passed, and suddenly one day, Amit receives Labonyo's wedding invitation and her last letter.
কালের যাত্রার ধ্বনি শুনিতে কি পাও, তারি রথ নিত্যই উধাও, জাগাইছে অন্তরিক্ষে হৃদয় স্পন্দন, চক্রপিষ্ট আধারের বক্ষ ফাটা তারার ক্রন্দন। ফিরিবার পথ নাহি, দূর হতে যদি দেখো চাহি, পারিবে না চিনিতে আমায়, হে বন্ধু বিদায়। তোমারে যা দিয়েছিনু সে তোমারই দান, গ্রহণ করেছ যত, ঋণী তত করেছ আমায়, হে বন্ধু বিদায়। Dear friend, can you hear the wheels of time rolling in ceaseless motion like gaping wounds wail, and the human hearts wake up in fear? These ruthless wheels have torn me from your touch and flung me far away across 1,000 deaths on the peak of a strange dawn. My gift to you is imperishable, unchanging. Let me be borne away by the changing tide. The gift remains. My friend, farewell. What I gave to you is yours by right, everlasting. What others receive are the daily driblets the heart yields to tender solitude. O my princely peerless friend. What I gave you was your own gift, fuller your acceptance, the deeper my debt. My friend, farewell.
Amit is alone at home. His wife is away for the evening. He takes out Labonyo's last letter, her farewell poem, and reads it aloud in the emptiness of the evening.
What I gave to you is yours by right everlasting. What others receive are the daily driblets the heart yields to tender solitude. O my princely peerless friend, what I gave you was your own gift. Fuller your acceptance, the deeper my debt. My friend, farewell.
The year 1919 was a turbulent year in India for many reasons, one of them being the barbaric Jallianwala Bagh massacre, where peaceful protesters were mercilessly gunned down on the orders of General Dyer. Tagore was so shocked and aggrieved at the inhuman atrocity of the British that he rushed to various political leaders requesting them to organize a public protest. However, he was met with complete indifference. He spent sleepless nights in agony and finally decided to go alone in his protest. Tagore decided to renounce the knighthood conferred on him by the British Emperor George V.
Your Excellency, the enormity of the measures taken by the government in the Punjab for quelling some local disturbances has with rude shock revealed to our minds the helplessness of our position as British subjects in India. The time has come when badges of honor make our shame glaring in the incongruous context of humiliation, and I, for my part, wish to stand shorn of all special distinctions by the side of those of my countrymen who, for their so-called insignificance, are liable to suffer a degradation not fit for human beings.
Tagore had set out for his first trip to Shillong in the autumn of 1919. Uma Purukayastha, the former principal of Government Girls' School in Shillong, has recently published a book, Tagore and Pineland Shillong. And we quote, Tagore became an overnight celebrity and his admirers and politicians thronged to him, applauding him and seeking his advice. Tagore always shunned publicity, and he did not want any emotional acclaim for his action. The muse needed a retreat to heal emotionally and spiritually. During his second visit in 1923, he wrote a long letter in the format of a poem titled Shillong Ek Chithi. Shillong Ek Chithi, or Letter from Shillong, was written to his distantly related granddaughters Shobhana Devi and Nolini Devi.
When no cooling fan, no sweet drink could heal the summer's heat, I came running to Shillong Hills to find a cool retreat. Here the clouds are spread o'er the mountain's crest. A soothing sylvan dream calls the soul to rest. The winding cascades fall, full of rhythmic grace. In my heart they sing and leave a sweet caress.
Tagore wrote his phenomenal play Rokto Korobi or Red Oleanders during his second trip to Shillong in 1923. This time, he stayed over a month at Jeetbhumi. It is said that Red Oleanders bloomed in abandon in Jeetbhumi. The play is about a simple ordinary girl, Nandini's spontaneous revolt against a dictatorial and tyrannical king. The fact that Nandini gets conceived in Shillong is indeed significant. Professor Indranath Chaudhary, former Secretary Sahitya Academy and former Tagore Chair, Edinburgh Napier University, feels that Tagore was influenced by the matrilineal society of Shillong.
This kind of a society gives quite a lot of power to a girl. Tagore must have seen that. And his Nandini is a creation of that kind of a girl power. She's a simple girl, almost the girls and boys of a mountainous area. Nandini could possibly change the mind of the king. She changes it. And they could possibly usher in a revolution. But in the process, Ranjan, the boy who loved Nandini, died.
There was also a historical and political trigger to Tagore's writing of Rokto Korobi. He had just returned from his extensive tour of Europe and South America in 1920 and 1921. He had seen the ugliness of the industrialized and capitalist world, and that had saddened him. Professor Usha Ranjan Bhattacharya, former head of the Department of Bengali in Guwahati University and a renowned Tagore expert, mentions the topical influences on Tagore which led to the writing of Rokto Korobi.
Expansion of capitalism in Europe and America besieged Tagore by a kind of serious concern. Since 1918-19, labor unrest could be noticed at different stages. E.M.S. Namboodiripad observed, the labor unrest followed by lockouts in 1918-19 gradually spread to the arena of heavy industries. Altogether, 396 strikes were organized during 1921 in India, joined by about 6 lakhs laborers. It needs mention that famous economist Professor Radhakamal Mukherjee was in Shillong in 1923, the very year when poet wrote his famous play. Radhakamal's personal experiences of the industrial unrest of Bombay profited Tagore to some extent in this effort.
We are at the Northeastern Hill University to meet Benedict Hignota, a visual artist and a visiting fellow at the Department of Cultural and Creative Studies. Benedict did his bachelor's and master's degrees in fine arts from Shantiniketan. Benedict says Shantiniketan keeps calling him back.
That place is something magical, and especially for artists, I am very fortunate I got the chance to study there. And Shantiniketan has really contributed to my growth, not only as an artist but as a person also as a whole.
Any songs of Tagore that you picked up there?
I played the flute at the time also. Few which I learned is that Ekala Chalore and then Amit Chinnigo, those common ones.
Would you play for us a little bit of both?
Yeah, I'll try this Amit Chinnigo. I'll try to play for the Khasi tune.
Benedict is also a flautist of repute and melodiously and seamlessly blends Khasi tunes and Rabindra Sangeet. Tagore left an indelible impression on the native community of Shillong. We find during our research that several translations of Nobel Prize winning Gitanjali have been done in the Khasi language. Here is a recitation by Arkin Paryat of a famous Tagore poem translated into Khasi by Binod Bihari Roy.
Hey Jing Im, Topen Day ka Ding Mountain Nai, Topen Long Hok ya Jing Im, Kane, Dakabasan ya Kanika Met Jonga, Kentiu Shadrong, Kasharak Jing Blay Kate, Jong Me, Topen Long, Senyasngi, I can me ding, Kum Jing Rwai, Ha Jing Im, Open day, ka ding mountain nai.
Sylvanus Lamare, principal of St. Edmund's College, tells us that he is at present engaged in translating Shesheir Kobita into Khasi.
I'm making a lot of effort because I'm not just translating it. In fact, whenever I get time, I walk through those places to get the connection of what Tagore experienced or what his character experienced, so that the translation will become more meaningful, so that there's a connection between Tagore and the community.
Chesterfield Kongwir, renowned Khasi composer, met the Rabindra Sangeet Doyen Debobruto Biswas in Germany way back in the 90s. Chesterfield invited Debobruto Biswas to Shillong.
He told me to do something in Khasi language so that everyone should get inspired by the song of Tagore.
Will you sing this also for us?
Yes, this one is Kalanti amar khoma koro prabhu Pothi judhi pichiye, pichiye puri kubhu. Kane kajing that toma byanga abre. Jing kyo shepting men sim jonga kaya punki yanga menta.
We are at Jeetbhumi. The house where Rabindranath stayed is still there, but out of bounds for the visitors. We just managed to photograph the plaque, which reads,
Come ye Aryans, come non-Aryans, Hindu, Muslim, come all. Come ye English, come ye Christian, come Brahmin, come one and all. Let us all unite on the shore of this vast humanity, that is India.
Right opposite Jeetbhumi is the office of Shillong Times, the oldest daily newspaper in English of Shillong. We meet the former editor of Shillong Times and former minister of Meghalaya, Padma Shri Manoj Chaudhary.
Tagore wanted to get a feel of the people of the hills who were so much distance from the mainland of the country. Tagore must have been so much enriched by coming to the northeast and Shillong in particular that it must have given him that feeling that India is not about one community, one language, one religion. His conviction was strengthened manifold. When India becomes free, India must be a nation for every section of the Indian people. And the Constituent Assembly of India had a lot of people who were influenced by Tagore's idea of India. And therefore, I believe that Tagore is less appreciated for the role he played towards making of India.
We next speak to the present editor of the Shillong Times, Padma Shri Patricia Mukhim, who believes that a poet like Tagore is beyond all boundaries of language and culture.
The celebration of Tagore's life and times and his visits to the region and to this state in particular 3 times, and he celebrated one of his 62nd birthday here. So this should have been a cause for jubilation for all of us, because Tagore is beyond any community, class, group. He is a poet, and poets are more like ethereal creatures. They can reach everywhere. But this has not happened. In the 150th year of Tagore, the celebration was headed by a group called the Red Oleanders, and this is a socio-cultural literary group which was very Bengali in its characteristic. Maybe there were a few Khasis, I don't even see their faces. And I was reading one of his poems where he speaks of the beauty, the magnificence of this place. The kind of description that Tagore gave of this place is unheard of, because we don't have a poet of his stature to describe the beauty of this place. We have our own poets. I'm not demeaning their contributions, but for them, they were very sort of cynical about life. There's more of otherization, but Tagore's was more of inclusion. Yeah. So that was the beauty.
Rahul Bose firmly believes that Tagore lives on.
Tagore was one of the greatest Renaissance men that the world has ever known. I've done Post Office as a play of Tagore's in the past, and I found that to be just absolutely enrapturing. And I've seen a couple of other plays in the West, and I'm sure they were inspired by Post Office. So, I mean, Tagore's influence ranges far and wide. The wonderful thing about Tagore is that his stuff remains sophisticated and contemporary in its thinking and its nuances through the ages.
Munish Singh provides concrete suggestions for sustaining the rich legacy of Tagore in Shillong.
The first and foremost thing that we need to do is to let people know who is Tagore and what are his works. For that, we need to involve local experts who can write articles, who can explain to people the works of Tagore. So further on, as you know, Tagore, the multi-talented personality. So in any different forms like fine arts, theatre, then dance, it can always be promoted with the local touch and involvement of the local people. As far as the Rabindra Bhavan is concerned, I think the government of Meghalaya, they are looking into the matter.
Manoj Chaudhary adds,
when you talk of tourism, yes, that's a great idea that there could be a Tagore walk. Why not? Could have been. Because I read in the papers the other day that people from different parts of the world are now exploring Tagore in whatever capacity, whether it is in London, Hampstead, or whether it is in Jorashako. People are flocking in larger numbers. Tagore will be eternal. I can tell you this. There will be no death of Tagore.
On the last day of our recordings, we receive a call from an excited tourist from Bangladesh, Saifur Rahman. He tells us how he and his wife Sulekha chose Shillong as their honeymoon destination.
Actually, I went there in search of Labonyo, the most stylish Bengali woman. Many question that why are you going there? Why not Taj Mahal or Himalaya? But I always told them that I want to go there to see the places where Labonyo once walked through these roads, loitered with Amit. Because this lady is, of course, the dream girl, I think, for every Bengali boy.
Saifur Rahman is advisor, editor of a lifestyle magazine from Bangladesh named En Vogue.
And I also sometimes wonder whether our future generation will be mesmerized with the beauty of Labonyo or not. But whatever happens in life, our attraction, of course, for Labonyo will be unabated.
As we leave, we hear a contemporary Khasi singer, Lapin Shai Siem, on the YouTube, and a tribal girl from the Hajung community singing Robindra Sangeet. And as we leave Shillong, their voices remain etched in our hearts. Like Saifur, our search for Labonyo continues. Our search for Tagore's legacy in Shillong continues.